About me, and I have a ton of demos. I love demos because I think the demos give you a value about how things works. I have slide deck. I will put slide deck as well later on, but let me see the what are the pain point. Now, I'm cloud architect. I do coding as well, but when you do the larger organizations, they need about security and governance, and that is a key thing, right? Because development is mostly can be done by many people, and the it's very important that development should be so strong that the governance security will be better for them, right? So that is something we are talking about. So I'm talking about everything more into the architect's side of the architecture, so you can get the value from there. So I myself, I'm Microsoft alumni, and I was a Microsoft working at Microsoft for a couple of years, and then I joined a company whereas I'm mostly healthcare industry. I'm managing the 10 countries in Asia, so that is my thing. I love learning and keep sharing the thing. That is my thing, which I'm always doing. And that is about myself. I don't talk about what I do. Now think about what we do in this session. We talk about a different kind of security controls with the Power Platform provides to us. I'm not talking about the development piece, but talk about something which is more, slightly more global, which is has to be done affected the entire system for the Power Platform. We talk about that thing. We talk about the secure environment strategy that is a lot of people don't understand, which is the most important thing to do any development. And then we talk about the resource permissions. I have a lot of customers which I've worked with, all have some issues. I will work with them. So all things I'm sharing with you coming from the field, the issues which I faced, thing which I actually resolved for my customers within Microsoft or outside of Microsoft. So I was a vendor. I know a lot of technical stuff which I do. So all things coming from the my field experience. So if you have any experience, I think you can just we can have an experience session to later on. But give me all my inputs, which I think are important for the security for Power Platform. Something DLP policies, something very crucial. And then we talk about the data versus security. Now, one thing to cognizant of the time, I will won't do too much slide. I mostly work on the demos. So I limit only 10-15 minutes of the slides, and all meeting will be all demos. So at least you understand, because slide deck will be anyways with you, which you can see later on. So let me go and I mean 5 demos for 5 items. So you get the points there. So security pillar, right? In Microsoft Power Platform, the main important thing we have to understand is it comes as a layer of security, right? It's not it's everything we do on an app. Lot of things we have to do. So one thing we have to understand about the tenant security. Then we work on the security of the strategy of the environments. We talk about all the resources, all the connectors, and the DLP policies, and the data security. Now, this is I can talk for 5 to 6 hours. This is huge topic, but in 45 minutes, I will see the key points. At least you get the understanding of how it works. So I do understand that not all the people here is well versed with the security of Power Platform. This topic will be slightly intermediate because I've talked about something which is overall on the governance standpoint. So if you miss out something, you just have a link, then you can just contact me. I can just share for more information about that thing. So all things which I have the information we can share with you. Okay, the first thing which I want to share with you is this first demo is about the identity management in Microsoft Entra ID, which is now formally called as Azure AD. I give you an example so that you can get the value. I have a customer where he want to have a Power Apps. Sorry, somebody spoke something. Okay, so I have one user, one customer where he has some Power Apps, three apps he did, but he want to control only for the finance team. No one else he want to do. So this actually possible using conditional access in Power Apps, right? So we have to do something control on the conditional access and Azure AD, sorry, Entra AD. Then you put some policies and then it will work. So what will happen that only the people who are into finance people, only they can access the apps. No one else in the organization can access. So this way we did some POC and then we actually roll out for that particular customer. It's a finance customer and it's pretty strong large customer in Singapore, right? Second thing is about how we can share the apps. Data S is very important. And second thing, we have to share with the external users. Okay, so you can use your Power Apps with the external users, but some things to be done, some kind of policies to be done. So I won't talk in detail, but I talk about conditional access in example, which I mentioned to you. So first demo is about how we can control the condition, the tenant level access to the for the organization, right? So you get um, the just what we can do here. So where is my I have a couple of windows here. This is my screenshots here, and yeah, this is the which I did right now. One thing we have to understand that the where is the tenant isolation. So let me go that what we can do. The shortcut I mostly use is aks.ms.ppac, right? It's called an admin center. I mostly use immediately at even you asked me that what is the full form. I create full form, but mostly I use this particular shortcut. Why you use it? Because I can do lot of controls on the tenant level. So first thing I will do is that I want to isolate a tenant, right? Not just assume that you have an organization which has multiple regions. Think about Singapore, Indonesia, Malaysia, India, Saudi Arabia, US, Europe, right? And everyone have their own AD, right? Different AD. So and maybe Saudi is the main branch, and then you have a satellites offices in different regions. Now, what I want to do is that I can have a tenant rule. Maybe person from India can have outbound, right, or inbound, depends on how you do. So I can have some my Power Apps, Power Automate, or some kind of Power Pages controls. Then I can put maybe I put Microsoft. Maybe think about I put Microsoft.com. So the inbound apps I can configure at this level, right? This is my tenant ID. This is my Microsoft ID. I click there. And this is inbound. What will happen is that all the people from Microsoft ID, they can have their own apps and configuration they can do, which means Saudi and Microsoft Saudi, they can have their own, I mean, people in India, they can have their own apps. So this configuration can be done only at the tenant level, okay? And typically is off, right? And because you know that security people are very concerned who can see what applications. So typically this one is always off. But I want to show you because we have configured for one of the very large organizations which have offices in Singapore and also in Malaysia and Australia. So we configured the app so that specific applications they can access, and other applications, the Australia example, they can access. So that particular application, this kind of things can be done at the tenant level. Okay, we can do conditional access as well. Let me share some screenshot to you so you can get the idea. Yeah. So this is I'm just save time that I can have my conditional access, right? I can develop policies. I can add the people who are in that finance group, and then they can access which region, which particular app they can configure, right? So I can have all my users who in my finance group, and then later I define a policy inside. So what will happen that only people from finance team, only they can access. No one in the world they can't access because I have defined a group in my AD group that only finance team can access. So this is a way I can control what permissions and what apps I can configure using Power Apps for my Azure AD or my Entra ID. So this is something which I want to share with you. We have to configure and PowerShell to do it. There's no UI, but the part I shown you this possible to do it. A lot of videos are there, a lot of documentation, but this is the way we did for one of the customers who want to have access to only to finance grow. So it's something which I want to share, that it's possible to give conditional access at the tenant level. Okay. Now let's move to the most important topic, which is called as a environment security, right? So we have seen the tenant level, we go to environment access, right? Now environment, we can have multiple environments. We can have the default environment. We can have one environment for IT, one for finance, one for all the applications for the HR. So we have different environments. So again, this is something to share. This is a what is environment? Is a container through which you can have your own applications, and you can have all your apps in one place, right? And every environment is a default environment, and we can set the geography of that. So now one thing to understand, very important, that your tenant isn't into Saudi, right? So your default environment will be in Saudi. But if you want to have example, I want to have office in India, then I can create a new environment and set as a India region, that is Azure AD regions. So why I want to tell you that you can bound a different geography for different things. We have a lot of organizations, we have different apps and flow created by India or Malaysia, and then can be used by the headquarter, which is in Saudi. That is possible to do it, and this is the best practice as well. Okay, and one thing we have to also understand that who can create environments. Okay, I will talk in details about that, but it's a big piece of a governance, and everyone can create a default environment. Apps will be created in that environment, and there's no control. So we have to create a governance on the security for the environments. Okay, now I will talk about this one as a slightly bigger piece. It's very important. When we do any setup for any organization, right? They always have different environment. They keep telling me, Aro, there is so many people have create apps and flows, but we have no policies we do, and everyone create their own applications. The reason is the default environment give you environment maker role, which means that everyone in the organization, whether it's 50 people or 10,000 people, have options to create their own app, Power Apps and Power Automate. Okay, and that is something which you can't control. So only thing we have to do here to make up DLP policies, which I show later. You configured DLP policies that only specific people can create apps and flows in the default environment. So that is something which I've done multiple times for large organizations where they have to manage that particular environment, and then later you can create a new environment. Example, I can create a finance environment. I can have my my HR department. All things I can do. Okay, so these are something which this is part of Microsoft documentation as well. Please never ever create a default environment for your end users. It's a very bad practice, and never ever do it. Better you create a group where you can have an environment, we can do a developer. We can create a developer, and they have totally different policies, different permissions. So don't do anything on the default environment. I know it's difficult to do it. Always create an environment separately for your own users and create a AD group for that. That is the best way to do it. Think about SharePoint. People from SharePoint, they know that if I create no policies on SharePoint, right? Everyone can create their own SharePoint. They create their own teams. It's become a big mess. So I mostly want to control. I mean, me as like the organization to control the others policies so that only specific people can create applications and flows. Okay. Okay, so let's have some understanding about my second demo. You get the thing. So I will go to environments. Okay, and in this environment, what I will do is that I will do some configurations, right? So let me give you the settings which I mostly do. Right now, here I see that there's no way I can. There's no option that I can control who can create environments. So what we have to do, we have to click on settings, and then maybe I want to control only, because by default is everyone. Now I want to control only specific developers create their own developer controls, right? Same thing applies to the production environments, you see. So this is my always do, although it's my demo tenant, but even for any organizations, I always do default specific admins. Specific admins are global admin, powerful admin, and the dynamics admins. Okay, so nobody can in the organization can create a production environment or a trial environment till they give permissions. Okay, so this is something a super important topic which most of the strategic people don't understand, but this is something we have to tell them how we can do it. Okay. The second thing which we can do is that we can have something called as backup and restore. The one thing is important that if you know about the SQL Server, it's exactly same setup. You can have a backup of the SQL Server, same way you can do on the Power Platform Admin Center. All the things actually backend is SQL Server. So don't worry that the only thing is the Microsoft are very generous. They make it a UI so that you as an admin or the security people can manage your applications or your environment very easily, right? So same thing, I can copy an environment, I can reset, I can delete the environment. So many things I can do to control in my environments. Okay, so this is something which I want to share, that please never do default don't do default environments, and control who can create environments. Okay, so that's something which I want to share with you on this. Okay, now we go to a very interesting topic which many people get confused, but I want to make it simple so that you can understand. Okay, now resource permission. What I mean by resource permissions, think about I'm creating a simple Power App or Power Automate. Okay, and then I want to give permissions to specific user. Okay, now in my example, I'm creating a app called as a Champify example here, right? And I have one user called as a Isai, right? So I'm the developer. I share this application to whom? To Isai. Okay, so I give access to him, and then later he mentioned to Isai, tell me, Aro, I can't access anything. Although app is showing to me, but I can't access data. Here there's no access to data. So what's happened right now that although I give permission to the user, but I'm not giving access to the backend. So app permissions, there are two parts here. App permissions, which is I have given access to SI, but me as an admin, because I'm not given rights to my data time, which is my data. So I have to give rights on the data as well. Again, I have to give data access as well so that SI can access that application. This is very common scenario in the organizations where the app is shared, but on the backend, the Dataverse or SQL Server or any data, they can't access data is because of this particular permissions the admin has not given. This is very common thing which I've seen and resolve the things which are users. Okay. Other things which we can do, we can access to the co-permanents, we can share what permissions, and we have some access to the co-owners. Okay. One thing I can tell you that the data assets, when you give access to a user, right, whether it's Power Apps, Power Automate, or Copilot Studio, it doesn't give access to the data. What you have done, you give it access to the app, but not a data. So you have to give data access. This is I can't give you this so much issues which I faced. So this is something I give this slide. So at least you get the value that you have to give resource access, that is data access. Okay. Okay. So let me give you this very simple demo, but some nitty-gritty security thing which I've seen for my customers. I give you with you that the issues which I faced. Okay. Now, what I will do, I have an app. I have an app. Okay, I want to give access to one of my colleagues. This is my Power App, very simple app. No rocket science, simple application. I want to just shape this application to one of my user and just a data platform. Just want to show this app. Data is coming from SQL Server or SQL or any place I can do. Okay. Okay. So what I want to do, I want to share this application, right? When I click on share, okay, that is good. Okay, so I give access to maybe I click on Maria. Maybe Maria is a part of the team. I just remove Alex and add him again. Okay, so I meet Alex. I know his credentials. I click on that. Okay, then I click on share. Now I will have a problem later on because I have not given permissions here. So I give for this particular permissions, I give access to app because I may be going for some training and Alex maybe can have control on that. But I also have permission. I have to give permission to Alex and for data so that the backend now here is only SharePoint, but you can have a SQL Server, Excel, or any backend. So you have to give this permission. So I click on that. This is my data. Okay, to initiate. So I work fine. I click on share. So both ways I have to give permissions. I have to give on the app level and also give to the data level, two ways. The only through Alex can able to access the Power App. I have seen many issues with this, so I want to give you how it can be done. Okay, and maybe I still have some time. Let me share about my third demo. You can get the things. So what I'm sharing is all on the tenant level permissions. Okay, so my fourth demo is about the DLP policy. So you have seen the tenant level, environment access, resource level. Now we also now connector access, right? Connector is your backend, all the backend policies you want to do, right? So this is the connectors. These are all things which you have done. Okay, so what is a DLP policy? Just want to let you know it's there in SharePoint, there in Teams, and all the ways you can have these things. So DL policy is mostly used to control any extra permissions if you want to share with external users or internal users for that matter also, right? So maybe think about a SharePoint site, right? I want to give access to the SharePoint site, okay, to external site people. Example, domain A, I give access to domain B, right? But I have I have different policies that what the user can access the data from, right? Can he access the full rights on the app? No. I will give read access to so that he can see the application. So that is something which is called as a data policies, called as a data loss protection, through which you can control it. Okay. Now, and in Power Platform specifically, there are 3 levels which you can do. We have something called as connector, which is called as sensitive data. Example, you have a SQL Server. Think about SharePoint and maybe Salesforce. This is sensitive data which you want to control it that only specific internal users can access, but they can't access from external users. Example, I want to access a site from maybe from Australia region, but I can't access because I don't have access to that particular region because I'm external user. So that is called as business data. Second is non-sensitive data, which means okay, still I will work, but we are nothing categorized into sensitive data, non-sensitive data. So we can group in that. And the third, we can have something called as a blocked, which means only those apps and flow won't work if I use something called as Google applications, right? One organization want to block all the Google applications, Google Drive, Google Meetings, whatever it is, right? To give an example, it's bad example, but you get the understanding of that. Okay. And then what we can do, right? Now, these are the environments. These are the environments. What I can do, that this environment, I give access to the business. I mentioned business, sensitive data. I have a SharePoint. I have Dataverse. Okay. Then in non-business, maybe I want to have Google Drive. So this environment can access it. Okay, this and this they can access. But from the block, I want to block the Google Drive or any other third-party applications. So this environment A can't access any third-party applications or any applications which I can set up policies on my tenant that this connector will not work for this environment. And this is very, very, very crucial for anything. Whether it's you have an organization which is only 10 people or 5,000 people, 10,000 people, 20,000 people, you have to approve the policies. Why I'm telling you? Because default environment, every person in the organization can create apps, which is a big headache for many organizations. Security issues, sensitive issues and all, never do policy in a different environment. So in my fourth demo, I'll give a context, then we directly go demo on the security because I won't have time for the security. Let's focus on the DLP policies part. Okay, so again, I'm using the PPAC, that is a default environment. I create a data policies. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I create a new policy and call as a GPP Webcam Saudi. And one more thing, this takes some time, right? Maybe it takes 1 hour or maybe 24 hours, depend on the even different tenants. Okay, so I'm putting a policy, easy to understand. This is the policy. And then now, if somebody asks you, Aro, how many connectors we have in Power Platform, you can see this number 1178. So 1178 connectors. A lot of people have connectors, right? So we had that one. So this is the connectors you can see. And my example, I want to have a SharePoint and Dataverse to be inside my business because this is sensitive data, right? So I click on here, move to the business. Okay, now you see business. Now these are all other applications, Power Apps. It's okay, it's not sensitive data, no issue with this. But I want to block all my Google connectors. Example, right? So I want to block my Google Calendar, my Google Translation, Contacts, Gemini. Wow, so you have connected with Gemini also. So I can just click on the block you see here. So I have okay, I have volume. Okay, I don't put Google. I just click on Google and click on the Google Drive. I make it block it. Okay, so I have blocks. Okay, then I will do click on the next. If you have Power, I have custom connector. You can have the API. Because custom connector is an API, so you can custom connector, you can define as a business, not business. But in my environment, I don't have any custom connector. It says, okay, I'll ignore it. And then most important thing, right? Many governance issues will happen. You can define for all the environments, but I've never recommend to do for all environments. Always do for a specific environment. I'll give an example. I have one customer who have all finance things he want to do. He want to restrict all custom connectors and some Google connectors. So if I do for all environment, my thing won't never work. So I most typically what I do, I put multiple environments and then I select which environment. Maybe I want to have a service desk environment. I click on policy. So I have only this policy. So I put it here. So always put specific environment policies. Never put for all because it may have some issues later on, which I've seen from a few of the use cases. This is my user. Click on policy. So after few hours or maybe below 24 hours, this particular policy will be working for which environment? The service desk and dev environment. Okay, so policy will work on that environment only, not to all. Okay, so this is a way we can put our policies at the tenant level. Okay, so that's something I'm going to share with you. And then I give you something that is very important for the security standpoint. Okay, so this is the last demo. Okay, so data about security. Right now, I put in less than 3-4 minutes. I give you basic concepts. Dataverse is just not a backend of system. It can have a lot of amazing content you can have. Obviously, it has security. It can have logic, like you can have logic apps. You can have. We have an amazing demo by the previous owner, speaker about the business applications, rules, workflows. Same thing we can do. We can have some data. We can have reporting, storage, and integration. So Dataverse is huge, huge. I tell you, I've done for many, many customers. They think that Dataverse is only the storage. Storage is only one part. There are 5 more parts, 3 more parts. Lot of things you can do in security. Okay. Now, before I give you the demo, I mean, this slide deck will be with you. Let me give you give examples, right? So what we can do in Dataverse, you must have a permission. You must have license, right? And then we can have policies we can define, right? Let's have daily policies. We can have business units. You can have to another users. You can define in multiple ways. Okay. Now, rather than showing the slide deck, let me show the demo how it works so that you get the value, because slide deck will be with you all the time, right? So very important part, right? This is the security roles with Dataverse. Actually, is dynamics is which you can do. SharePoint can't do so granular like Dataverse or Dynamics can do. So you can define a very, very fine grain permissions in Dataverse, which no other systems can do it, right? So this is something I give you, that I give you this kind of a complex environment because many customers have faced that they have a permission to the Power Apps automate, but they can't access it because of the permissions, because they didn't give proper access right on the security on the Dataverse. So Dataverse is a huge topic. I give you a glimpse how it works, then you get the value on that. But before that, there are many roles we can do, but I'm giving you the more important roles. So this is the most powerful role, right? Where is my okay. This is the most powerful role, right? Lot of power it has, right? So he's an environment admin. Think about global admin is that level, right? Then we have something called a system admin, right? He controls a specific environment, not all. Now, this environment, you have full access to all the power platform environments, but system admin is only that environment. So it's a slightly lower permissions. Custom permissions, which means I can customize some permissions in my system customization. Okay, this is the thing I want to share you. When you put a default environment, the role is what? Environment maker, which means everyone in that organization can create apps and flows. This is very dangerous. I know dangerous, but it's not good for the governance standpoint. Okay, and the least permission is something called as we give basic rights to the user, right? In SharePoint, you give read access, right? Same thing we can do here as well. So the most strongest permission is environment admin, and the least permission is called as a basic user. But they are more permissions you can assign. This is the most important one, right? You have to understand this one. Okay, so I have around 10 minutes. So let me give you some gist about the was, and then we can wrap the session. Okay, now I begin an example of a very simple environment. So let's load up the maybe give this environment. So I click on this, okay, and I click on this environment. Okay, a lot of things we should do, right? First thing, I always give a permissions, right? When you create a new environment, it gives some different lot of org kind of URL give, but it's very confusing for admins. So mostly what I do, first thing I do, I rename it to a meaningful name like server desk. By default, it's given some weird names, right? So this is something which I'll always do. Okay, that is my first task for any environment which I do. Second thing which I do is I can security group I can do, right? Now, one thing when I do environments, right? Always put a security group. Okay, because default environment is open to all. Again, default environment is open to all. So when I defined a security group, these are all my security group which I can do, right? So example of one of my group which I have, is only this group have access. Nobody in the organization have access. So this is something which we can see, right? Something which you can do. Okay, yeah. So that's something which and as a, I mean, I'm doing for Power Platform for a couple of years, so I mostly have follow some best practices. So I'm just sharing these best practices with you so they can have a better clarity what I mostly people do, right? Then the other things we can do, that we can have a business units. What is business unit? To think about departments, right? Okay, now this is my service deck environment, and I can have different environments, right? Maybe I can have a um, finance team, right? Maybe I can do finance. Okay, and I can have website, whatever I decide. So it's clear with that. So uh, why are we doing it is because it's easier for me to understand that under this environment, I have different groups. I can have HR and all. It's mostly for segregation. Again, it's for use for segregation. Nothing great here, but just want to give you grab, because in the organizations might have a department and have some sub departments, right? We have a finance group, we have management group, we have all other groups we can have. So this is something which we can do, right? So this is called the business units. Then we have something called as users. So in this environment, because I have this group, I can see this users. So here, these users are, this is my all my demo users. This are all my friends which I work with them. So I have Aro, I have Devang, we have Dhruvin. So a lot of people who inside this environment, because they're part of that AD group. Okay, but again, I tell you, now this is the AD group. That's why I'm putting. But don't put the users in general. Never ever put in the. I mean, I give you an example because of security, that many users put the names there. But if the user left the company, then that user can't access the application. But for the admin is headache. Where is that app? Where is that user is there? Whether have the AD group is there or not is very big headache. So always try to use a security group. Always have security group. Even if 1-2 people are there, at least we know that there's some groups which exist, and we can every month or monthly we can able to check who have access to that group rather than going to individual users. Okay. Okay. And then we have something called as a teams, right? Teams we can do. In the teams, what we can do, right? I can create a security group. Let me click on teams. So what's the team? Team is a collection of group, right? Think about your AD group. It's just as simple as that. So what I will do, I click a new team and I call it as a GBB Saudi. Okay. And I use, now you see here I can find grain, whether it's for finance or service desk, I can just find it. And maybe it's for finance. And I put my name here as an administrator. Okay, and then I have a couple of ways I can do. I can use a security group, right? Microsoft Entra ID security group. I can use the name of the security group. I should have this group, and then I can give access whether the user at this GPP Saudi group, whether they are owners, guests, or whatever they want to do, right? So here I can do some fine grain because I have defined business units. I have some users. I can have some other permissions I can do. So very, very important to assign a team. I always, when I do any environment checks, I do this thing first before I do any troubleshooting. This is something is my checks which I control and see if any customers face. I mostly install these issues there. Okay. So this is a way I can create a new user. I can create any permissions and all. One thing to take understanding that there's something called as settings, right? So same thing you can do here, but in the settings, there are some additional features you can enable. I think we have one of the Marian mentioned about the PCF. So I can enable maybe in this environment in service decks, there's no PCF. So I can enable PCF feature here. Where is a yeah, it's not enabled, so I can enable PCF feature. So this is something called a security control, which I can do, right? I can have some TDS endpoint security. I can define multiple ways I can do. I can have some components to enabled or not to enabled. So these are the way I can have some more security on my backend system, right? Whether I want to do something called as a PCF controls or something more fine grained for my developers, yes, I can do that particular part. Okay, so attachment, something very important. Attachment, whether Dataverse my end users can do attachment or not. That is something we can do. So that's why I mentioned to you previously, never ever put DLP policies for all environments. Put for fine grained. Maybe one policy is required, different permissions required, different features. So this is a way we can do some policy checks on that. Okay, so yeah, that is something which I want to share about what is the security features you can do.